Hey there everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about Zoids New Century, the second anime in the Zoids series. I previously did two videos on the first Zoids series, Zoids Chaotic Century, and I found the original show really held up and was well worth watching many years after its release. Zoids is a property that a lot of commenters recommended even before I did the first two videos. And the funny thing is, after those videos released, I received multiple comments saying that they mistook Chaotic Century for New Century, which is the second Zoids show. Honestly, it's not really a hard mistake to make, seeing as New Century was actually brought to the US first, despite being the second show. So here we are talking about the actual show that some of you requested. Zoids New Century was developed by Shogakukan Incorporated. I'm sure I probably mispronounced that. And animated by Studio Zebek. And much like the first show, it combines 2D animation with 3D models for the Zoids themselves. Unlike the first series, New Century is only 26 episodes long, and a bulk of the episodes are pretty much self-contained stories. Chaotic Century was also a fairly serious show at times, and dealt with death and war with villains that were trying to wipe out entire countries. On the other hand, New Century follows a team of Zoid pilots that take part in a battle competition with mostly low stakes. Luckily for anyone that doesn't want to sit through the 60 plus episodes of the original show, New Century takes place so far in the future that any connection to the story of Chaotic Century or Guardian Force is relegated to the odd Easter egg. New Century follows the adventures of a junk salvager turned Zoid warrior named Bit Cloud as he joins the Blitz team. Blitz team takes part in team battles overseen by the powerful Zoids Commission with the goal of becoming high-ranked warriors and winning the Royal Cup. Bit pilots the Liger Zero, a huge white Zoid that has a bunch of different forms and add-ons, which I'm sure made for really cool toys and is also really damn cool. I'm a big fan of both the Shield Liger and Blade Liger designs from the original show, and I think I actually like Liger Zero more. It's just so cool. Also, for this show, I decided to watch the English dub because I felt like that's probably how most of my viewers experienced it. However, there is some cut content from the dubbed version, usually scenes involving nudity or drinking, so I'll point that out when we get there. And there definitely is not a version of the show out there that has been re-edited to add the Japanese-only scenes into the dub. Do not go look for it or obtain it, or the sun will explode. Zoids New Century opens with what the show focuses on most: Zoids battles. The Zoids Commission judge is fired down to Planet Z from orbit inside of a judge capsule, and oversees a battle between the Blitz team and a team of Saber Tigers. Blitz team consists of a pretty classic trio in a D-Bison, Command Wolf, and Shield Liger, but the battle doesn't actually go as they expect because the Liger trips over an invisible truck. This causes the judge to call off the battle due to danger to a bystander. The owner of the vehicle is the blonde-haired Bit Cloud, a clever and outgoing salvager that's already taking parts off of the damaged Zoids. Bit is a pretty interesting protagonist. You know, he starts out only looking out for himself. He even attempts to steal from the Blitz team later that night, only to be caught in a big net. Bit can be sort of an asshole for pretty much the whole series, and he loves to shit-talk people, even people that are helping him sometimes, but it's never so egregious that it makes me not like him. This is how Bit meets the members of Blitz team. Brad Hunter, a traveling mercenary who signed on for the money and pilot of the Command Wolf. Leyon Tauros, the leader of Blitz team with the signature Liger, and Lena Tauros, Brad's sister and pilot of the D-Bison. Also part of Blitz team are Jaime, who's kind of like the team's strategist, and who also sometimes pilots their only flying Zoid, the Terrace. Finally is Dr. Steven Tauros, the owner and financier of Blitz team, Zoid's scientist and engineer, and father of Brad and Lena. Dr. Tauros comes across as a well-meaning guy who's maybe a little too obsessed with finances, but this guy is actually kind of a sociopath. Like, I don't think he understands human emotions normally. Dr. Toros is my favorite character in New Century, and here's a quick list of psycho shit that this man does to the teenagers that work for him. He forces Bit into indentured servitude by having him sign a binding contract covered in legalese that requires Bit to pay back an nearly insurmountable debt. He lies to the team about one of the team members' parents being dead in order to inspire them. In one episode, when his daughter is literally being hunted by a serial killer ghost called the Chainsaw Man, who reenacts a scene from Psycho with Lena in the shower, Dr. Toros jump scares her with a chainsaw that he ordered to their base at 1 a.m. Oh yeah, and there's an episode where he literally promises a guy a date with his own daughter to get him to work for him. Dr. Toros is an absolute nut job, and I love him. In one episode, Lena is kidnapped by Toros' arch rival and kept in a force field on a bed full of flowers, and Toros doesn't even fucking notice she's gone. He also, at one point, sells one of the team's Zoids to buy a new one without asking, which, if you don't know, Zoids are semi-sentient, so that would be like if your boss sold your dog to buy a better dog with a machine gun for a head. So they tie Bit up until they decide what they can do with him, but at least they do give him food. He does eat with his feet, so that's something. He asks about the big white Liger that's sitting in the team's hangar and is told that the Liger Zero is a super rare Zoid that is hard to maintain and won't let anyone pilot it. Lena says that her dad got conned into buying it, and it would be a really, really powerful addition to the team, but there's only one issue. The only thing stopping that from happening is that the Liger is super temperamental, and anyone gets inside it starts to freak out and won't listen to any commands. The Zoids having minds of their own and being close to big metal animals is a much smaller part of the series compared to the first. Wild Zoids aren't even really a factor at all until like a couple episodes later, which I guess makes sense if they were rare in Chaotic Century and this takes place many years later. Bit seems drawn to the Liger Zero, and that night when he's alone in the hangar, it approaches him and opens its cockpit. He starts pressing buttons and the Liger flips out and blasts through the door, fleeing into the night. The next morning, the team finds that Bit has apparently stolen the Liger Zero, but they see that the Zoid cut his bonds, so they're actually more intrigued than mad. When Blitz team gets into a tight spot in their rematch the next day, Bit and the Liger show up to save the day, using his strike laser claw to take out the Tigers and win the battle. And that is how BitCloud comes to join the Blitz team on their adventure to win the Royal Cup. It seems a little abrupt at first, as we don't really know anything about Bit, but during episode 2, he has a heart-to-heart with Leyon late in the night. While Leyon helps Bit equip the Liger Zero with some auxiliary weapons for an upcoming match, Bit tells him that he's traveled far and wide searching for the best Zoid parts. He wanted to go and find the best Zoid out there and build the most powerful custom Zoid, but is drawn to the Liger Zero and thinks it's pretty much as close as he's gonna get. It isn't much of an emotional backstory, but it's better than nothing. Bit says despite the Liger Zero's quirks, it is the best Zoid he's ever piloted. The funny thing is, Bit is shown to be a very good Zoid pilot right from the beginning. Even disregarding his special connection to the Liger, he would probably be able to pilot any of the Zoids well enough, and as explained by Bit himself later in the series, this is pretty much all due to raw talent. When it comes to piloting Zoids, Bit is kind of just the guy. He proves this during the battle with the Flugel team, headed by the long-range master Naomi. Naomi is pretty cool. She has a gun sniper, which is an awesome design. She has a really good accent and calls a guy Baldy Locks, and she barely wears pants. I'm not kidding either. There was some animator back in the day going fucking mad, making sure that the audience knew that there was just a little bit of cheek hanging out in certain shots. The episode leaves you wondering if Bit won through skill or just luck, which is kind of a running thing throughout the show. As soon as he arrives on the battlefield, he unleashes all of his ammunition on Naomi's sniper perch, but misses every single shot. But right when Naomi is about to take him out, her sniper perch collapses due to all the damage. This leaves her open to Bit's close range attacks that easily take out the gun sniper. Leyon tells Doc Toros that he wants to leave the Blitz team in order to travel the world, just like Bit did. Leyon trusts Bit with his place on the team and takes off to find himself, though this does leave Blitz team without an actual leader. No one's going to trust Bit in that position, and Brad and Lena can barely stop arguing long enough to fight the enemy teams instead of each other. The biggest obstacle that Blitz team has is terrible teamwork, and they need to learn to get along to get to the higher ranks. Brad is the least offensive of the main trio, mostly just being kind of aloof and doing what he wants. Bit continues to be really cocky, which is only bolstered by the fact that he continuously wins without putting in very much work. And Lena is just super annoying for the first 5 episodes. She's basically every girl trope of 90s and 2000s anime rolled into one, constantly yelling, smacking people, and being super vain. Maybe it's better in the subbed version, and those traits do subside in the latter half of the show. So anyway, it's mostly a nitpick. Also, Bit's reaction to Lena's antics make them less annoying. There's a part in episode 3 where she is constantly annoying him and he's like, "What, are you like in love with me or something?" Which is kind of cathartic. Like, he saw Ash and Misty in Pokemon and said, "Nope, not me." As the show progresses, it settles into a comfortable loop of either introducing a new side character or bringing back an old one to challenge the Blitz team while they work their way up the ranks. The nice part is all of the side characters are pretty fun and interesting, though I think my least favorite of all of them gets the most time, and that would be Harry Champ, the man who would be destined to become king. Harry is a rich kid Zoids enthusiast who wants to become the top-ranked Zoid warrior in order to impress Lena, and that is pretty much his whole goal. The Harry Champ should have been named Harry Simp. He also has a bit about proving himself to his dad, but that's not really very relevant, and he's mostly just comedy relief 99% of the time. Harry has these 2 robot sidekicks named Sebastian and Benjamin that tell him he needs to take on the Blitz team so he can defeat Bit and win Lena's hand. This is mostly spurred on by the fact that Lena decides to play them against each other, and Bit literally does not care and thinks it's a good opportunity to test the Liger Zero. The battle takes place in a mock city, which immediately got my hopes up that the whole series wouldn't be mostly battles in the desert, which is unfortunately not really the case. Bit shows that he has good battle sense here as well as luck, as he forces Harry's Darkhorn to keep turning left until its legs buckle under the strain of its decked out weaponry. Harry then succumbs to a barrage from Lena's D-Bison, and I guess she got Bit back for being a kill stealer after all. While most of New Century is episodic, there is a story that's ongoing throughout the season. The story arc mostly involves an illegal group known as the Backdraft Organization that are led by a mysterious man named the Count, who interrupt sanctioned battles to steal Zoids. The Backdraft are introduced when they take Lena hostage in order to force a battle with the Blitz team with the ultimate goal of stealing the Liger Zero. We get a little more insight on Brad's attitude as he initially declines to join the battle, but then shows up when Blitz team needs him the most, firing into the ground to kick up a dust cloud that reveals the enemy's invisible droids. The funniest thing about this episode is that Lena has to save herself. Like, they did not prepare for a girl that's ready to throw hands and take out armed guards. This is also the first episode that has cuts in the dubbed version, as it starts out with Bit walking in on Lena in the shower. Zoids New Century then goes on to introduce the Liger's power-up system. Unlike in Chaotic Century, where the Shield Liger upgraded directly to the Blade Liger, the Zero can be equipped with 3 different upgrade parts, all built by Doc Toros. We get to see the first upgrade, the Zero Jager, when the team takes on the deep-voiced mercenary Jack Sisko in a high-speed battle. The ever-persistent Harry Champ hires Jack in order to get revenge on Bit and to win Lena's heart. Jack jumps at the chance to make some cash and tells Harry they'll beat the Blitz team as long as he does exactly what he says. When we actually get to the battlefield, we see it's a huge barren wasteland and the teams are separated by a span of 30 kilometers. Jack uses his lightning sykes to speed around and mark the Blitz team for artillery bombardment using Harry's other Zoids. Doc has Bit transform inside the hover cargo mid-battle, and the audience is treated to a fairly long animation of the Liger Zero having the Jager unit installed. So, at the very least, the installation animations are detailed and fun to watch, which is a good thing because they use them in almost every episode. You can really tell when the writers needed to fill a little time when you get the full Liger animation and the full-length Judge launch animation. It literally eats up like 3 minutes of the episode. Also, I love that Doc named all the Liger upgrades after German words. Like, he definitely plays World of Tanks. Add that onto the list of things that makes him lovably insane. The Jager gives the Liger Zero a cool blue paint job and enough of a speed boost to keep up with Jack Sisko's lightning sykes. The two Zoids race along and bash into each other like they're playing Burnout, and in the end, Bit is able to damage the legs of Sisko's Zoid and win the battle. Bit's celebration is short-lived, as this is where he finds out the contract that Doc had him sign to accept the Liger parts puts him on the hook for paying them all off in full, so I guess Bit will be working for the Blitz team for a while. The Blitz team has a scheduled match with the Viper team, but they don't know that the dastardly Backdraft Organization is already planning on taking over the battle. A captain within the Backdraft named Stoller sends his subordinate Sanders in a huge heavy assault droid, the Elephander. I think the dark color scheme on the Elephander suits the Team Rocket style group pretty well, plus it's cool to see a Zoid that's just a giant bastard that the whole team has to take out together. This episode gives a much closer look at how the Backdraft Organization hijacks battles with their Dark Judge pod and a big dome that cuts off all communication. They also appear to broadcast the battles to their own members, who are all a bunch of rich guys who like gamble on it, I guess. At first, Doc Toros refuses to get involved with the Backdraft Organization, but both he and Brad's eyes light up when they hear they will win 5 times the prize money. Luckily, the speed of the Jager wins out over the Elephander's heavy armor, as Bit is able to strike from above, while backlit by really cool lightning, no less. After Lena's D-Bison was damaged in the battle with Jack Sisko, she decides it's time for an upgrade and buys a fully decked out gun sniper. That's right, it isn't just Bit that gets a Zoid upgrade as the show goes on. Everyone on the Blitz team earns an upgrade eventually. This is another episode with Naomi, which is always a good thing. Dude, I love how everyone is on good terms with her except Lena, especially now that they have a gun sniper rivalry. They end up having to deal with a group of bandits that break out of prison called the Sand Stingrays, and it's a pretty standard episode. Besides Lena getting her new Zoid, there's one really cool thing in this episode though. There's a part where Bit and Brad drive around in a car with a huge anti-Zoid rifle to take out the Stingrays, and that's something you never really see again, so it's just kind of fun to have one of the characters wielding this huge fucking gun. Not long after dealing with the Desert Stingrays, Bit is given the chance to put his second Liger transformation to the test. The Blitz team once again faces off against their enemies from the first episode, the Fierce Tiger team. However, this time the Fierce Tigers have some help in the form of a deranged scientist named Dr. Leyon. Leyon is not only a weird scientist that flies around in his Whale King fortress, he's also a rival and former friend of Doc Toros, and he harbors a lot of resentment towards the Doc. After the Fierce Tigers lost to Blitz team in episode 1, they're willing to do anything to get back up in the ranks, and we see them take advantage of Leyon's weather machine to win battles to get to a place where they can once again challenge our main characters. When the Tigers and Blitz team finally face off for the second time, Blitz team has to contend with Leyon summoning huge cyclones to assist them on the battlefield. Jaime and Toros scan these apparent phenomena and discover that there's something mechanical inside them, and so this gives Bit the opportunity to test out his second Liger transformation, the Zero Schneider. The Schneider gives Liger Zero a bright orange color scheme and some aggressive blade attachments, which he utilizes to perform a powerful technique called the Buster Slash. The Buster Slash is powerful enough to blast through Leyon's cyclones, sending the Mad Doctor and his Whale King packing, and leaving the Fierce Tigers defeated once again. Dr. Leyon is a pretty fun character overall, and later on when he begins to actually interact with Toros and the members of Blitz team, he becomes one of my favorite villains. There's something about his characterization that's so funny to me. He speaks in this deep voice and tries to seem imposing and dangerous, but the second he gets flustered, Leyon freaks out and yells, stomping his feet and having a Mr. Crocker fairy godparents meltdown. To be fair, it's pretty much only Doc Toros that gets under his skin, which is pretty understandable. We're introduced to an important member of the Backdraft group called Major Altile, and he visits a place called Fort Solace to recruit a team of Zoid warriors and their war sharks. Altile's objective is to locate a Zoid known as the Ultimate X, and he believes Blitz team's Liger Zero to be a prime candidate. Speaking of Blitz team, Jaime gets a spotlight episode where he gets a little pissy that no one ever listens to his battle strategies. He begins to feel sorry for himself and wonders why Doc Toros keeps him around, and Bit tells him not to worry about it because they always win anyway. Just kind of a backhanded compliment. I love how after Bit says this, Jaime cheers up and is like, you know what, you're right, it doesn't matter. Of course, later when the Blitz team's battle is interrupted by Altile and the War Sharks have them on the ropes, it's up to Jaime to come up with an idea to get them through it. Well, it's a combination of Jaime's planning and Bit's inability to give up, and taking advantage of Lena's inhuman temper. Using Bit as a target, they have Lena shoot at him by saying that he stole her lunch, and then Brad destroys the War Sharks as they're flung into the air. This leaves their leader open to Bit's Jager speed, which she cannot keep up with. After kicking Altile and the War Sharks to the curb, Blitz team is promoted to Class A in the Zoid battle rankings. Now that Blitz team is Class A, they have a whole new world of battles open to them with stronger opponents. This is where I feel like the groove of New Century makes itself very apparent. Most episodes either revolve around Blitz team fighting one of their previously introduced rivals, or dealing with the Backdraft Organization messing with their Zoid battles, and sometimes a bit of both. While the show falls into a comfortable rotation, it becomes a little obvious that this is just kind of what the show is. There's no huge overarching narrative that's going to take over with shocking twists and turns. New Century never takes the leap to a larger story in the style of Chaotic Century, and to be fair, I don't think that's a bad thing, especially because New Century is a shorter show. The fact that the overarching narrative is pretty light is also forgivable to me personally because I find the show to be legitimately funny. Most of the jokes of the show still land and are usually based on reaction shots and quips from the characters, and they just have the comic timing down. Blitz team heads to a town, which is pretty rare in the show, and take part in some Zoid trials put on by the Commission. These trials are meant to measure an individual pilot's statistics and rank them, and it's pretty fun to see Bit come in number 1 and totally smoke Brad and Lena. Bit's time in the sun doesn't last very long once the veteran Zoid battlers take their trials. Cisco comes in above Bit and tells him he shouldn't expect to be number 1 as a rookie. We get to meet Cisco's new team, the Lightning team, who just happen to be a pair of hot sisters that have the same Zoids that he does. I guess he has good taste. Blitz team gets the instructions for their next battle, who just happen to be Cisco, Chris, and Kelly, and so they come up with a strategy to combat the super fast Lightning Sykes. Of course, the battle comes down to a face-off between Bit and Cisco, but this time Cisco has been training to dodge Bit's attacks. While Bit tells the Liger Zero to fall back and utilize Jaime's strategy, it doesn't listen to him and charges back in. Luck isn't enough to pull out a win for Bit this time, and Jack defeats the Liger Zero and hands Blitz team one of the only losses we see them take in the entire show. Bit is not dejected by this loss though, because he sees how Cisco trained to combat his tactics and how well he works with his psychs, and that's given Bit a goal to work towards. After so many battles, the Backdraft Organization has become more and more interested in the Liger Zero, especially Major Altale, who is convinced that it is the Ultimate X. The show doesn't go into detail on what an Ultimate X actually is until way later, but we can assume it's a really strong Zoid. Altile sends one of the few new Zoids in New Century, a squad of bat Zoids called Zabbits, to steal the Liger by just lifting it out of Blitz team's base. Blitz team looks for the Liger, even hiring Harry with his company's resources to search, but he cannot find anything, even when Doc puts up a date with his daughter as collateral. Weird, dude. Bit goes to look by himself and is captured by the Backdraft group, and even given an offer to join by Altale, though he would never do that. Altale sets up an arena battle between the Liger Zero and Elephander piloted by Stoller, and tells Bit he will pilot the Liger Zero for them or it will be destroyed. The arena battle is mostly for Altale to prove that the Liger is the Ultimate X, but Bit's tenacity and skill win over Stoller during the battle, and he refuses to finish Bit off when he has the chance. This is when Blitz team arrives after Doc was able to pick up the Liger Zero's energy signature and just start shelling the stadium with everyone inside. They weren't fucking around this time. Bit is able to escape through a newly opened hole in the wall and make it back to the hover cargo, but escaping isn't on his mind. Bit cannot let a challenge go unanswered, so he equips the Schneider and goes back to face Stoller and the Elevator. While the huge Zoid is able to fight off Brad and Lena, the Schneider's Buster Slash is powerful enough to blast through its energy shield and damage its legs. The Liger is also damaged in the exchange, so Bit and Stoller agree to call it a tie and fight again in the future, even exchanging names with each other out of mutual respect. Stoller makes a real strong impression and is probably my favorite Backdraft character. He shows up and is immediately good enough to fight off Blitz team in a 3v1 in a Zoid that they've already beaten once under the command of his subordinate. The mutual respect that Stoller and Bit end up having for each other is a fun trait for an antagonist, even if I think Stoller wasn't used to his fullest potential in the series. Speaking of wasted potential, Jaime gets another spotlight episode. This time it involves the story of his father, Oscar Hemeros, a famous flying Zoid specialist known as the Wild Eagle. Doc Toros sells Jaime's Terrace and trades it for the more powerful Reynos, but Jaime is too scared to use it to its full potential and has to go through a training regimen. In a moment of exasperation, Doc tells the rest of Blitz team that Jaime's father was a world-renowned Zoid pilot who died in a Reynos accident. When the members of Blitz team try to cheer Jaime on, he has a flashback of watching his dad crash to the ground and die in a big explosion. Alright, Zoids, that's pretty dark. Bit wants revenge on the Backdraft Organization for stealing Liger Zero, so the Blitz team hatches a plan along with the Zoids Commission to give them a taste of their own medicine. They use Harry as bait, finally something he's good at, and when the Backdraft comes to take him on, they're taken by surprise by the full force of the Blitz team. When Jaime takes to the field in his new Reynos, he's chased down by like 15 guys and passes out. However, he dreams of his father and pulls the Zoid up at the last second, turning the tide and taking out the Zabbits. Blitz team congratulate Jaime, but now he has a deeper voice and spiky hair and tells them to call him the Wild Eagle. He proceeds to beat everyone's ass and break the sound barrier while the theme song plays for 3 minutes, so that way you know it's cool. Finally, he takes out the Backdraft's Whale King just for fun before having a rough landing. When the team go to retrieve Jaime, they find he's gone back to normal and has no memories of the battle, and their conclusion is basically, "Wow, you have split personalities? That's so cool!" To cap off the episode, Jaime's thought to be deceased dad walks in, and Doc reveals that, well, he never specifically said that Oscar died, and he thought it would be a good motivator if they just believed that. Which, that's pretty fucked up, Doc. And yeah, while Jaime's Zoid-based Super Saiyan transformation is pretty cool in the moment, it is totally wasted potential. Every time they use the Wild Eagle thing after this, he immediately crashes and does basically nothing. Also, they just give up on the blacking out thing later and have Jaime be able to swap personalities without even mentioning it. It is at least fun to watch Jaime be like, "I'm the Wild Eagle, now get ready to have your shit pushed in, nerds," only to immediately be shot down every single time. Professor Leyon returns, this time with an anti-gravity machine and an actual backstory. We see that back in the day, Doc Toros, Oscar, and Leyon all used to be besties, but due to a mix-up involving a love letter, Leyon ends up feeling betrayed and going down a dark path. Of course, the love letter was addressed to the woman who would become Lena's mom, and Leyon believes that Toros put his own name on the letter when he delivered it. I guess that is what Leyon gets for being too shy to talk to a girl on his own, or even write the letter on his own or deliver it. So Leyon kidnaps Lena because he doesn't want her involved in the coming battle, as she looks like her mom. He also carries a picture of her around, and she wakes up on a bed of roses in his Whale King. I don't think it's intentional, but Leyon gives off major creeper vibes. Just imagine a guy that used to have a crush on your ex-wife carrying around a picture of your daughter in his wallet, and tell me you wouldn't want to murder that man. When Blitz team goes to save Lena, they get support from the Tiger team, who want revenge for their earlier humiliation. During the battle, Leyon sends out a bunch of drone Zoids that Blitz team take out with very little issue. Even though Oscar shows up during the battle and tries to tell Leyon that the love letter debacle was all a big misunderstanding, Leyon can't hear him because he's charging up his big gravity gun. Luckily, the Tiger team and Bit work together to launch the Liger Zero through the air using the Hover Cargo's catapult and take out the Whale King, leaving Leyon to end the battle all dejected and pissed off, swearing further revenge. I'm pretty sure Doc Toros didn't even notice Lena was missing the entire time. Since Leyon got his chance to return to the show, I guess it's good old Leyon's turn now, remember him? Leyon makes his debut as a returning Zoids pilot when he saves Naomi from the Backdraft Organization using his cool new Blade Liger with a red color scheme. After being saved, Naomi is happy to have Leyon join her team, and they waste no time setting up a 2v2 bout against the Blitz team. Lena and Bit are shocked to see Naomi's new partner is their old leader, and I'm kinda surprised the show didn't try to make this a bigger surprise for them. I totally expected Leyon to not reveal himself until he beat the Blitz team, but nah, he's just like, hey guys, what's up, I'm back. Bit is surprised by how skilled Leyon has become, and Leyon fills him in on what has happened during his journey, detailing his trials piloting different Zoids and gaining skill. Leyon explains that it was losing battles that forced him to improve the most, and this is where you would think that the show would make Bit learn that lesson, but no. In fact, Leyon is pretty wrong because Bit does not need to lose to become stronger. He just keeps winning through being an idiot savant when it comes to Zoids, and in Bit's own words, it's just raw skill, baby. It did make me laugh when he said that because it's so true.
I'm finally starting to get my bearings. That last attack damaged the Blade Liger. Was it a fluke? Maybe not. It's raw skill, baby! Let's go, Leyon! I hear ya!
Time and time again, Bit shits all over everyone, and even when he gets put in his place, which is really only because Cisco is such a badass, by the way, it's not like his losses really translate into any sort of lesson. I would have actually liked to see Bit lose some more, but at least it's interesting that the show's main character wins through sheer willpower like 90% of the time. I was actually hoping that Leyon would pull out a win over Bit here, but the Backdraft Org shows up to get revenge and interrupts the battle, causing both teams to team up and take them out. Bit and Leyon depart, with Bit happy to have a strong rival and promising to settle their battle the next time they meet. Way back at the start of the show, we were told that Doc developed 3 separate armor systems for the Liger Zero, and it's finally time for the last entry to make its debut. Bit's tenacity and love of Zoid battles leaves such a mark on Stoller that he steals the Elephander and leaves the Backdraft Organization, wishing to have an official bout against the Liger. While Bit is more than happy to oblige, he finds that the Schneider doesn't have the offensive ability to break through the Elephander's defenses, so he just keeps bashing himself against it like a brick wall. Even after taking damage, the Liger refuses to give up, so Bit equips the new Liger Panzer, a heavy assault armor that, while very powerful, has a lot of drawbacks. For one, it's so heavy that the Liger basically can't move. Even walking with the Panzer equipped is an ordeal because it throws off the Zoid's balance. On top of that, the Panzer armor has major cooling issues and begins to overheat before even firing a shot. For all the drawbacks, the Panzer armor is insanely durable, literally tanking a barrage of missiles without a scratch. When Bit fires its main armament, the hybrid cannon, it's basically a Dragon Ball Z attack that's so powerful it blasts through the Elephander's shield and knocks the big Zoid down, and causes the extremely heavy Liger to slide backwards, leaving a big rut in the earth, i.e., it's pretty goddamn cool. The Panzer uses too much energy and causes the Liger to go into a low power state, leaving Stoller to finish Bit off at his leisure. But before that can happen, the Backdraft Organization, under direct orders from the Count, show up to steal the Liger and kill Stoller for being a traitor. Just as hope seems lost, an option on Bit's control panel lights up that says, Burning Big Bang. Bit says he trusts the Liger's judgment and uses its attack, firing a storm of missiles that take out all of the Backdraft Zoids. Bit is able to purge the Panzer armor to let off the excess heat, and Stoller tells him that he considers the battle a loss, even though it was cancelled. Stoller then leaves, never to really return to the show, and I assume he went off to chase his dream of coming out of retirement as a legal Zoid pilot. By the way, this guy's full name is Stigma Stoller. Did he fall out of Gundam and end up in Zoids somehow? Also, to Stoller's credit, he's the only rival that the Blitz team never actually beats. He just sort of leaves when he's satisfied and only shows up as a short cameo later. Now that Bit has shown off his third and possibly most powerful Liger upgrade, it's time for Brad to get an upgrade of his own. That trusty old Command Wolf has put in a lot of work throughout the series, and hey, I personally have a soft spot for it because I owned a cool Command Wolf toy as a kid, but it's getting a little long in the tooth. Brad sets his eyes on a mysterious Zoid that uses stealth to terrorize the countryside, even chasing it off the side of a cliff. His Command Wolf is damaged in the fall and then blown apart by a bunch of missiles, and it's kind of shocking how they treat the Zoids as tools in this show, barring Bit and the Liger, of course. Back in Chaotic Century, they went through this whole arc of Irvine transferring his Command Wolf's core to a new Zoid so his partner could live on, but here it's just like, he got blown apart after falling off a cliff, fuck it. Even in Leyon's flashback of his travels, we see that he jumps from Zoid to Zoid after they all die until he finds the Red Liger. Brad is captured by Dr. Leyon while helpless in the forest and taken to a Backdraft facility. That's right, the Mad Doctor works for the Backdraft group now and will do anything to get back at Doc Toros. They strap Brad into one of those G-Force machines they use to train astronauts and find that he might have the skills and fortitude to pilot the newly developed Zoid, the Shadow Fox. Brad, being the shifty mercenary that he is, pretends to pass out in the test chamber only to board the Shadow Fox and escape. In the forest, Brad uses the Fox's smoke screen to escape while utilizing its advanced sensors to pick out the stealth Hellcats and take them out. This impresses Leyon so much that he radios in and tells Brad to keep the Shadow Fox, on one condition. Meanwhile, the Blitz team is undergoing a battle without Brad, only to be interrupted by the Backdraft group. The Backdraft warrior for the fight is none other than Brad, who seems to have joined the villainous group. Brad and Bit battle back and forth, trading strike laser claw attacks, only for Brad to reveal that the Zoid gear that he installed on the Fox belongs to the Blitz team. So, technically, the Shadow Fox is registered as a Blitz team Zoid. Take that, Leyon. Brad never planned on joining the Backdraft group at all, and I love the fact that he pretty much just steals the Shadow Fox. The Backdraft group even has the balls to complain that they're stealing the Zoid, which is technically true, but like, look in the mirror, man. Their complaining doesn't really matter though, because the official judge just tells them to fuck off and shoots the Whale King with a laser from their satellite, which makes me wonder why they don't just do that more often. We get another Leyon-centric episode right after this, where he tries to defeat the Blitz team by kidnapping Harry and holding him hostage, thinking that Lena is dating him. Obviously, that doesn't work because no one really gives a shit about Harry. Well, I guess Doc does, but only because Harry has a lot of money he can spend on Zoid parts. This episode is pretty much filler, but it does demonstrate how much Leyon brings to the table for the Backdraft group. Like, the guy builds giant lasers and shit, and it makes them more threatening. He also kidnaps Harry by putting roofies in his ramen. Can't wait to meet Backdraft's latest Zoid pilot, Bill Cosby. At the end, he tries to win by strapping Harry to the outside of his Whale King so they won't shoot, but Lena doesn't care and fires a bunch of missiles anyway. Luckily, Harry is fine, and now he loves her even more. Getting blown up by missiles is a weird kink, but I guess it could be more common on Planet Z. Zoids New Century begins to wrap up by actually having a few episodes with a connected plot. The Count is pretty much done with Major Altile going on about the Ultimate X. In fact, I don't even think he believes in it. It really seems like he's more interested in making money, so when Altile suggests that it could lie on the ocean floor, the Count assigns him to be in charge of the undertaking. The other important members of the Backdraft group believe searching for the Ultimate X to be a fool's errand, so this is pretty much just banishment for Altile's continual failure. I kind of find it funny that Altile mentions it could be hidden in the ocean like Atlantis. Do they have Atlantis on Planet Z? Maybe that's where it went. While Major Altile is hunting for the so-called Ultimate X, Blitz team and Harry are taking a vacation at the nearby beach. This leads Altile to believe that the team is hunting him down, so that night he sends out squads of Mantis and McCurtis Zoids to attack them. This is one pretty interesting battle in the series because it's one of the few that doesn't take place in a tournament setting. Blitz team is able to drive the attacking Zoids back into the sea, leaving Harry and Bit to chase after them in a pair of war sharks, only to find that the Backdraft Organization has successfully excavated a mysterious object from the sea floor. This episode also introduces Bit's final rival and the ultimate antagonist of the show, a little kid Zoids enthusiast named Vega Obscura. I have to say I'm pretty let down by Vega and his big titty handler Sarah. Maybe it's just because he looks really similar to Raven from Chaotic Century and doesn't really live up to that character at all. I mean, he's not a bad character and he matches Bit's natural talent with Zoids, so you would think that he would be a good foil for him in the Liger, but Vega just gets so little screen time in the anime that it's hard for him to make any sort of impression. At the very least, he does get a cool Zoid, as we see the ultimate X that Altile uncovered is the dinosaur-like Berserk Fury. The Fury is pretty awesome with its particle cannons and heavy weaponry, though I like the Japanese name way better, which is Berserk Führer. I guess they didn't want anything that could be considered a Hitler reference in a kid's show, even a vague and tangential Hitler reference, I guess. Altile is impressed with the performance of the Berserk Fury, and we learn a few traits about what the Ultimate X really is. To be considered an Ultimate X, a Zoid needs to have a special black box inside its frame. The black box is hidden deep enough that the casual scans of the Zoid won't pick it up. And in reference to Chaotic Century, we learn that the black box is actually an organoid system. Unlike in Chaotic Century, where the organoid would jump into the Zoid and fuse with its core to power it up, the organoid system in this show is apparently always activated and acts as sort of an adaptive battle AI that increases a Zoid's prowess the longer it fights. An Ultimate X also refuses to let most people pilot it, requiring a chosen one with enough willpower to become the Zoid's partner. It isn't really a surprise, given the Liger Zero's history, that it is also an Ultimate X. Blitz team finds this out when Doc takes the Zoids to an actual professional shop to have them tuned, and discovers the organoid system within. Blitz team and Lightning team have a scheduled battle the next day, and of course, they're interrupted by the Backdraft group. This time though, it isn't Dr. Leyon or Major Altile trying to capture the Liger, but Vega and the Berserk Fury wanting to test the Zoid's abilities against strong opponents. Brad says that he's heard of Vega Obscura before, calling him the undisputed king of Zoid battles, but I don't really see how that makes sense. Vega was just saying he was itching for his first real battle with the Fury, and I guess he could have been part of the tournament in a different Zoid before being scouted by the Backdraft, but it's just sort of hard to believe that the #1 ranked Zoid warrior in the entire tournament is a kid that only Brad has heard of and the audience has never seen up until now. On top of that, Vega has to literally grind battles in the next episode to reach A rank, so I don't really see why he would have to do that. Maybe he registered a brand new team and had to re-rank, but it's just sort of a weird thing to throw in there to make Vega seem more threatening. Vega then proceeds to beat both Blitz team and Lightning team in a 6-on-1 battle, and is even about to destroy the Liger with his charged particle cannon, but is told to power it down because the Fury can't handle the recoil without specialized armor. So Vega just leaves Lightning and Blitz teams defeated and retreating to lick their wounds. Vega then proceeds to make it all the way to A rank in just 2 days, a feat that took Blitz team the entire season to achieve. Finally, the ranking system actually comes into play, as all the A-ranked battle teams are invited to join the Royal Cup, a half battle royale, half race to cap off the series tournament. Basically, tons of judges are spread across a wide area, and all competing teams are free to roam around with the goal of winning battles and accumulating points. Once they have enough points, a set of coordinates will be sent to them that points them towards the finish line, and the first team there wins. They are also only allowed 4 Zoids/team members, and they cannot make any repairs during the Cup. The first battle that Blitz team ends up in during the Royal Cup is against Jack Sisko and the Lightning team, and it illustrates just how much Blitz has improved. Brad and Lena take out Kelly and Chris with relative ease, leaving Sisko and Bit to duke it out once again. This time Bit takes Sisko to the cleaners by racing him to a tree line, but instead of pulling away at the last second, Bit blasts through the trees and makes a U-turn, taking Sisko out with a laser claw. Just as we think the Cup is going to plan for the Blitz team, we see that the Count has given Sarah permission to go through with a little plan they've been cooking up. She uses a charged particle cannon to blow up the Zoids Commission Judge satellite, and a bunch of dark Judge pods descend to the battlefield, announcing that the Backdraft group has taken over the tournament. At the Backdraft HQ, a little bit of infighting is brewing. Seems that Major Altile doesn't really love the fact that Sarah is rising through the group's ranks so quickly, and mostly by piggybacking off his work on the Ultimate X. So he gathers a group of his most loyal Zoid warriors and reveals that along with the Berserk Fury, he also found 3 Genosaurers buried on the sea floor. Altile sends his Genosaurer squad to take down the Berserk Fury and kill Vega, with the intent to dash Sarah's hopes and get himself back in the Count's good graces. Meanwhile, Blitz team goes up against Tiger team, who changed their name to the Zaberfangs. That didn't do them much good because the running joke of calling them the Fuzzy Panda team makes them fall over in exasperation, and the judge counts that as a loss. Sucks to be them, I guess. I don't really know why he counts it as a loss. Like, Bit falls over all the time. Blitz team goes up against Leyon and Naomi, and I thought this fight was going to be a pretty big focus, but Vega shows up to interrupt them. Oh yeah, also Jaime goes all Wild Eagle, which means he gets shot down pretty much immediately. Lena gets caught in the fight between Vega and the newly arrived Genosaurers, who all fire their particle cannons in a huge blast. Luckily, Harry and Leyon both jump in front of the beam to protect her, and we get a scene of Doc Toros telling Leyon that they will continue their rivalry once he's back on his feet. Vega beats the Genosaurer trio pretty easily too, like they never really had a chance. I guess that just shows how much more powerful the Berserk Fury is compared to the Zoids at the end of Chaotic Century. Oh yeah, Brad gets a really cool moment here where he takes out Naomi by shooting through a Judge pod, and once Bit proves that he's the better Liger pilot over Leyon, Blitz team has all the passcodes they need to reach the finish line, with only Vega standing in their way. In the final confrontation between Bit, Brad, and Vega, the Blitz team's Zoids seem to be getting smacked around. In fact, the Liger is pretty helpless at one point, and it's really only saved because the Judge satellite is crashing down on the battlefield, and the Fury blasts it apart in the air, causing a bunch of destructive debris to scatter everywhere. Bit expends his Mega Bomb attack to destroy the debris at the cost of his Panzer armor, and since he isn't allowed to repair anything, it's up to Brad to hold off Vega while Bit equips the normal Zero armor. Brad puts up a good fight in the Shadow Fox, but it gets its legs blown off, and it looks like it's the end for Blitz team as the Fury blasts the hover cargo with its cannon. However, the Liger emerges from the smoke, and the two Zoids go into a wild melee. I gotta say, the Liger versus Fury fight is probably some of the best early 2000s CG animation out there, at least with a TV show budget, and considering the fact that it is integrated with 2D backgrounds, it's really impressive. During their battle, Vega is knocked out cold in the cockpit, but the Berserk Fury is, well, Berserk, and its battle motivation factor is above 100% according to Sarah, so it ain't stopping, even with its pilot out cold. Bit charges the Fury, which is charging its particle cannon without hesitation, grappling it with the Strike Laser Claw. Vega comes to and is able to power down the Zoid's weapon, conceding the battle to Bit and the Liger, the true Ultimate X. Bit stands triumphant at the finish line, the corpse of an old Ultrasaurus, and is congratulated by the head of the Zoids Commission for accomplishing his goal, winning the Royal Cup. Bit and Vega speak briefly and hope that one day they can battle each other again, and Bit, who's been hit with a deep-seated sense of wanderlust, thinks about taking the Liger on vacation before their next adventure begins. And that is the story of Zoids New Century. Honestly, if I had to rank it along with Chaotic Century, I think I still prefer the original show. New Century isn't bad, and it does accomplish what it set out to do, which is be entertaining and not too heavy. When you consider the fact that this show was literally created to fill a time slot because an Ultraman show got delayed by 6 months, it honestly becomes impressive what they were able to pull off. And even if I think the story is definitely weaker than Chaotic Century and there's way less character development, one thing that New Century definitely does better than a lot of shows of the time is humor. It is legitimately funny, and I laughed at almost every episode. Along with its strong sense of humor, the animation is pretty great for 2001, a trait that is unfortunately not true for the next show in the series. So let me know down below what your thoughts on New Century are. Did you watch this show as it aired when you were a kid, or did you end up watching it as an adult like I did? And if so, do you think it holds up compared to its contemporaries from that era? Thank you for watching, everybody. I will be back soon with a new entry into the Gundam Retrospective, which I know has been on a bit of a hiatus. So with all that being said, have a good night. Hello everybody and welcome to today's end card. Let me start out by thanking all of my wonderful channel members, aka Batosai, Argent, Griever, Azure, Windress, Brian Sanchez, Chris Goodnow, Daniel Johnson, Dane O'Connor, Grim 07, Harmonious, Hidden Insanity, Jessica Solberg, Jay Lamb, Joe Castellanos, Joe Cavazos, Johnny G, Canto 20, McLean Nugent, Mackenzie Cunning, M.B., Rother the Paladin, The Crawl, Trey Hardy, The Twisted Mentat, Zappa Slave, and Zach Jones. Thank you all so much for continuing to be channel members. I really appreciate it. I hope that you guys all enjoyed today's episode talking about Zoids. It's been a while since I talked about Zoids. Actually, I meant to get to this one a lot sooner, but you know, there's just so many shows to get to. So what are the plans for what's coming up? So I do want to get another video out before the end of the year. It's kind of up in the air whether or not that's going to happen, because it is Gundam the Origin that I'm doing next, and it's fairly long, I guess. I've watched most of it. I've seen it before, so it's not like it's the first time I've seen it. I just don't know if I'm going to have time with the holidays and everything. But that's the plan. I do want to get that out. If it's not out by the end of the year, the start of January, we'll be seeing Gundam the Origin. And then after that, we'll check out some other stuff. So what else do I have planned? Well, the only other thing going right now is the gaming channel, technically, even though I have not uploaded there for a couple of weeks. Just taking a bit of a break because it's a lot of work doing two channels, even though one of them is just simply a Let's Play channel. But if you like Let's Plays, in the year of our Lord 2025, and nearly 2026, I'm doing Paper Mario over there, and currently nothing else. So that channel, I kind of just play whatever comes to mind. But I think in 2026, I have a big plan where, like, I want to upload on the gaming channel every single day in 2026, and that's probably not gonna happen, but hey, a man can dream. And to do that, I'm just gonna have to play like a lot of really good video games from every generation. So that's kind of what that channel is. I just like to play a bunch of stuff that's good, that's old, that you know, maybe I haven't played yet, or I haven't had a good experience with. So enough about the gaming channel. What else is going on in my life? Not too much. You know, everything's busy right now. I've been reading a lot. Not so much manga, but I've been reading a lot of books, some Stephen King, a lot of horror randomly. I started reading a book called Floating Dragon, by, oh god, I can't remember the guy's name. Very similar to Stephen King, but I did not like it. So that's kind of a downer. Now I'm reading Salem's Lot, which is phenomenal. It's probably my favorite Stephen King book that I've read. So, you know, I never talk about books on the channel or anything. I figured I'd just mention here in the end card. So, anyway, well, this is a long end card. I'm rambling. So, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And, hey, I will see you again soon. Also, I never say like and subscribe. If you're this far in the video, you may as well subscribe, because, like, yeah, I don't know, it's been an hour, so, hey, sounds good to me. See you next time.